happy little games. In the early 1980s, LaserDisc arcade games were seen as the future. Thanks to the revolutionary RDI and Cinematronic smash hit Dragon's Lair, companies were starting to get on board with this technology, hoping to achieve even just a small sliver of its success. Stern Electronics released Cliffhanger.
Hold on!
No, he tells me. I don't think.
Atari released Firefox, which was in conjunction with the Clint Eastwood movie of the same name. And Cinematronics dipped their toes back into the water with the rather excellent Thayer's Quest.
You are the Dryads?
Yes, and we know of your quest.
Today, we are going to take a look at a LaserDisc game that was released by arcade giant Data East back in 1985. The name of the game is Road Blaster, and it's not to be confused with the Atari driving game Road Blasters, which was released in 1986. This is a typical interactive movie game, but this time features some pretty good gameplay and animation by Toei Animation. What other Smash arcade hits did the director of this arcade game go on to develop? What extremely popular arcade game did the Road Blaster car make a cameo in? Let's find out as we learn about the history of Road Blaster. Dragon's Lair was released in 1983 and was an enormous success. It featured not only gorgeous animation done by the legendary Don Bluth, but it also introduced the QTE or Quick Time event. For those of you who don't know, the controls were pretty basic, with you having to push up, down, left and right, and pressing the action button at the appropriate time. Instead of controlling your player directly, you were reacting to on-screen prompts which triggered pre-drawn failure or success animations. Despite the limited playability, audiences gobbled it up and asked for more. In 1984, Yoshihisa Kishimoto was tasked by his bosses to create a couple of games for the LaserDisc arcade market. The first LaserDisc game to be completed was the helicopter extravaganza Cobra Command, which I will cover at some point. Mr. Kishimoto had started work with Data East a couple of years earlier, but would go on to much greater success with the creations of Renegade, Double Dragon, WWF WrestleFest, and of course, the best game on the Super Nintendo, Super Bowling. Mr. Kishimoto had recently seen the 1981 movie The Road Warrior, which takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where former police officer Max Rockatansky roams the desert of the Australian wilderness in a black supercharged V8 Pursuit Special, scavenging for food and petrol after his family is brutally murdered. Mr. Kishimoto thought this would be the perfect basis for an arcade game. In order to realize his vision, he went with Toei Animation, and more specifically Yoshinobu Inanu, who directed or-key animated films such as Galaxy Express 999, Battle Angel, Gundam Char's Counterattack, and Transformers the Movie. The game would use 15,000 hand-painted cells of animation. This would bring the runtime up to over 30 minutes of anime quality goodness. Road Blaster was released by Data East in 1985. As the story goes, you and your beloved are on your honeymoon when you are attacked by a group of rogue bikers. You are driven off the road and your wife is killed. After rehabbing your injuries, you upgrade your car and set out to make the vile scum that killed your wife pay for what they've done. The Sega CD version has more of a backstory in which you are having a little R&R after serving 10 years as an elite police officer known as STOP, or the Special Task Operations Police. While you and your honey pie are on vacation, a group of road terrorists called Scum, or Secret Criminal Underground Movement, decide to take you out for busting some of their friends. The game takes place across 9 levels, which sees you drive your vehicle like a bat out of hell, getting your revenge on the nefarious bad guys. Similar to other LaserDisc games, you don't actually control the car, although you react to on-screen prompts. This entails you pressing left or right at the appropriate time. Another important factor is your speed, which you use the turbo button to speed up. Also, while holding the turbo button down, a crosshair comes on the screen and allows you to move it around to shoot the bad guys. You also have the option to put on the brakes, which again is noted by on-screen prompts. You must be careful though, because one wrong turn and it will be the death of you. Thankfully, there are checkpoints throughout the game. Similar to Dragon's Lair and other LaserDisc games, it's all about the presentation, and the animators at Toei Animation did a wonderful job. This is a mile a minute, seat of your pants, frantic style of game which sometimes moves way too fast for you to actually appreciate the animation. The 9 stages of smash 'em up action you encounter are Seaside Cruise, A Long Way Down, Freeway Firefight, Factory Tour, Over the River, and Through the Woods. A Turn for the Worst. Drive Through the Country. And the Final Showdown. If you successfully complete the final level, you are shown an extravagant ending sequence that neatly ties up the story. The car from Road Blaster makes an appearance in the opening shot of Double Dragon. Also, during the attract mode for Road Blaster, you will see the garage door open up and your car sitting inside. This is also similar to how the original Double Dragon starts up. Similar to other LaserDisc games, you will encounter several death scenes. Here are some of my favorites.
is be right back.
暴走族に愛する妻の命を奪われた主人公が強力なマシンで戦いを挑むアクションドライビングゲームロードブラスター。全編フル動画高画質アニメーションで展開する迫力のカーチェイス。プレイヤーは画面に表示された方向指示やブレーキターボの指示を素早く入力し迫り来る暴走族の攻撃に立ち向かう。サウンドには RSS ローランドサウンドスペースシステムを使用し迫力の重低音が緊張感を増す。80年代にアーケードで人気を誇ったゲームがより進化した機能を盛り込んでレーザーアクティブで復活。
At the time, home systems could not do this game justice, but in the early 1990s, with the advent of CD-ROM technology becoming more and more commonplace, conversions of the game started popping up. The first conversion we are looking at is for the MSX, and it comes in VHD format. VHD stands for Video High Density and was released only in Japan by JVC. Rather than use an optical disc, it uses something similar to an LP record. With that being said, the presentation is really good with full screen animation and excellent sound. Everything from the arcade game seems to have been included, and it looks and sounds great. It was also released in VHD format for the Sharp X1 line of computers. It looks pretty much identical to the MSX version. Next up is the Pioneer Laser Active version. This was released as Road Prosecutor so it wouldn't confuse fans of the Atari Road Blasters arcade game. This turned out really well with almost full screen visuals and of course excellent graphics. Another nice addition is the ability to race on mirror versions of the tracks. The soundtrack is really good, but for some reason they replaced the arcade music with original tunes instead. The pointer itself could be a little bit faster, but otherwise it's a fine conversion. The PlayStation version was released as a 2-pack along with Thunderstorm, or Cobra Command as it was called here in the States. The first thing you notice after starting up the game is that the overlays have been given a new update, but it is possible to use the arcade's original instead. The visuals look good, but there is a little bit of pixelation going on. The sound is excellent and the pointer moves at a fairly good pace. The Sega CD version is the one most people are probably familiar with here in the States. Thanks to the resolution of the Genesis, everything is very pixelated with extremely limited colors. The frame rate is not quite up to snuff either. However, Wolf Team, who were in charge of this conversion, were fairly lenient when it came to the button timing, so everything is a bit more fun in my opinion. Another big plus is that this version has an all-new soundtrack. Now, even though I thoroughly enjoyed the arcade original, this version is good as well. It also features a brand new opening song not found in the arcade game. If you can get past the grainy visuals and muddy colors, it's a pretty good conversion. The Sega Saturn version was released as a 2-pack with Thunderstorm. This looks very similar to the PlayStation version, although to be honest, it's not quite as smooth. This has the same graphical relays found in that version as well. Everything looks really good and plays really well. For some reason, this version played a whole lot better than the PlayStation port. An unofficial port was released for the Super Nintendo. But Patman, isn't the Super Nintendo a cartridge-based system? Why, yes it is. This was accomplished by using the MSU-1 Media Enhancement chip, which is a fairly new chip that allows 4 GB of additional storage, along with full motion video playback and stereo PCM audio. Considering this is a 16-bit cartridge-based system, the graphics are impressive and it plays great with excellent controls. There is a bit of video compression going on, but it's not too noticeable, especially with the fast and frantic gameplay. A version was also released for Windows, but it was available only in Japan. This is really well done with crystal clear video and awesome sound. The pointer speed is very good and it plays and feels just like the arcade game. In 2011, a version was released for the iOS platforms. This uses HD graphics and looks really good, especially on the small screen. Once again, we get new graphic overlays which can be switched off if you prefer the arcade original. The soundtrack is straight from the arcade game and sounds just as good as when it did 35 years ago. Another unofficial port was released for the Commodore Amiga back in 2019. This version looks really good, although the frame rate isn't as smooth as the arcade game. The colors look good and the soundtrack is fantastic. It has 6 difficulty levels, plus the ability to start on any level or just sit back and watch all the scenes. It's very cool seeing new content like this getting released for one of my favorite home computers, the Commodore Amiga. And there you have it, my friends, the history and all the conversions of Road Blaster, or Road Prosecutor, or Road Avenger. LaserDisc games came and went very quickly, and sure, there wasn't a whole lot of gameplay to be found, but the visuals were spectacular, which is why 99.9% of us played these types of games. If you've never had a chance to drive really fast, killing people left and right, be sure and give this game a shot. You'll be glad you did. If you enjoyed this content or any of my content, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, if you would like to support me on Patreon, please click the link below. Thanks everybody for watching.